When someone thinks of the quintessential view of a homestead, a lot of times cows will come to mind. However, if they're not your cows and they're on your homestead, then that can be a problem. So in this video here, I'm going to show you how you can build a fence all by yourself and to keep those pesky cows off your property. Now, before you start just putting fence posts up, you got to do a little bit of planning. So here I'm shoveling some wash sand into the truck so I can make my own concrete, because I'm going to have to fill post holes with concrete. It's not a fun job, but it's something I got to do. And by the way, when I said by yourself, I mean solo. I'm going to be doing this 100% solo. So the fence I'm building is a standard fence for keeping cattle off your property. And with this fence, I need to have H-posts. H-posts help keep the tension on your barbed wire when you're running a long fence. And in my situation here, for the first fence line, I need 4 H-posts. And here I'm just showing you the holes that I dug. And they're about 2 feet deep, and the holes are 8 feet apart because that's how long the perpendicular post is going to be. And also I'm crossing a wash with this fence, so there's going to be a little bit of a different type of fence going across that portion. Alright folks, so here what you're looking at are posts that I got from none other than Tractor Supply. They had the best deal in town, and I could spend the least amount of time obtaining these posts, but you could also use railroad ties and lots of other things. So what I'm doing here is I'm letting these posts dry. You see that black stuff at the top? That is actually asphalt emulsion. And I put that on the tips of the posts here that are going in the ground just to add an extra layer of protection. You don't have to do this, but it gives me the peace of mind of knowing there's an extra layer of protection. In addition to that, this will help to keep the posts from wicking all the water out of your concrete when you pour your concrete in your holes. Because as you know, concrete needs water to cure. So I don't want that happening, and that's why I'm using this. This stuff maybe cost me about $5 to put on all these posts, and as you can see, I have most of the can remaining, so I'll be able to use it for other projects. So after these have dried, I'm going to be transporting them over to the holes. And the first step is to put your first pole in, the one that's furthest away from your actual fence line. You'll see here soon. And you're going to concrete that one in the ground first. And the reason for this is because, like I said, this is for doing it solo. I need that pole to be solid, so then I can connect the perpendicular posts to make the H, and then the final post on the end. And in order to connect these posts together, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using a 1/2 inch thick piece of rebar as a pin in each one of the vertical posts to attach that perpendicular post. And I'll also show you how that's going to work. Now, the purpose of the H in the H post is to keep the tension on your barbed wire when you're running these strands across a long distance. It's a tried and true method. And although there's lots of variations of H-posts, the concept is still the same. So here I just let this dry for a little bit, the sun will dry it, and then I'm going to take them out to where they need to go. And if you need further information, especially in Arizona, there is an Arizona Revised Statute, Chapter 3-1426, and this will describe what a lawful fence is. Now this is for Arizona, but I have a suspicion that this would probably apply to whatever other state has open range laws like Arizona. Alright, so next we get to the fun part, and that is to have your posts set in the ground. Pretty self-explanatory here, but basically you get a level and make the poles as level as you need them, and
know, you just brace them up. With the round posts, you can get away with 3 braces. Square posts, you might need to do 4, but you can probably get away with 3. But anyways, you know, they don't have to be exactly level, they just have to be close. And, you know, if anything, you probably want them leaning back a little bit away from the tension that's going to be pulled on these posts. So basically, the tension for this H post here will be going that direction. So if I have them leaning slightly back this way, not much, not even a quarter of a bubble on your level, but if you have them back just a slight bit, it isn't that bad of a thing. So that's the way these are going to be done. And so I pre-mix my concrete up on the hill there, and I got a couple buckets here, probably going to need more. But you know, when you're going 2 feet in the ground like this, you have to put concrete around the post. You have to. So if you were doing it where you can actually dig deeper, you really want to go, I think, 3.5 to 4 foot deep on these posts. So, you know, you really need them deep if you're not going to do concrete, because there will be a lot of tension on them. So, but I recommend concrete if you can do it. So that's what I'm going to do here. Now, the last thing that I'm going to do that is a little bit different than you might see is I have some of these deck screws, okay, and I use these to brace the post in. But what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to use a few of these on the actual post itself, the part that's in the ground. I should have done this before I actually put it in the ground, but the reason I do this is because it provides a little extra traction for the concrete. So if I put these in this post here around it, then basically these will be surrounded in concrete as well. And they're not very strong screws. Actually, I have bigger ones I'm going to use, probably the 3 inches, but you know, they do give it a little bit extra grip. So if you put them around the post, I did it with lag bolts. They would be ideal. But if you had like lag bolts and just screw a few in at the bottom here, they'll actually, you know, create more surface area for the concrete to grab onto. And so you're bracing it from all sides and coming out from it and everything. So it's a good idea if you can do it. But these little screws probably aren't going to do much, but I'm going to do it anyways just to show you guys. Okay, so you can see here, if you go around, I have a few of these screws jutting out of this post here. Now, like I said, lag bolts would be ideal. I don't have any, I checked, but this is what I did the last time I put posts in. I just put a few lag bolts in, and you know, it does give it some extra grip with the concrete, so it's not necessary. Same as this tar here is not necessary, but just extra things to make your life a little easier and make your posts a little more sturdy if you're putting them in concrete. So something to think about. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour my concrete here, which I, you know, like I said, mixed up on the hill here, and hopefully I have enough.
And here, before I actually put this vertical post in, I'm just going to play it safe and take a measurement to make sure I have it in the right spot. Alright, so the saying goes, if you give me 6 hours to cut down the tree, I'll spend 4 hours sharpening the axe. And I don't know if those ratios are right on time, but with something like a fence here, it's the little things for me. So I actually will spend a lot of time on little things, like, for one, making sure that my posts are fairly level. Actually, these posts here are going to be slanted back slightly. You can see here, not even a quarter of a bubble here. There you go, about there, barely. And they're slanted back slightly this way because what's going to happen is when this fence is, the tension here from the fence is going to pull on it this way. So it's okay to have your post slightly back. Now this one's already concreted into the ground. It's good to go. I let it sit for at least a day and a half, so I can come back here and do my next post. Now the next post here, the first thing I got to do though is actually I got to put a pin in this one to pin this post in here, this perpendicular post, the H part. Now everything online that I read and all the information I gathered, 40 inches is about the consensus for the height if you're doing a standard fence for cattle.
So, you know, you want your post at least 40 inches up. This is about 40 inches, a little bit above actually. And these are 8-foot posts, a little bit bigger than 8 foot actually. And I have them about 2 feet in the ground, you know, give or take a couple inches, just depending on how hard the dirt was. But I put a lot of concrete around this, and I'm gonna do the same with this one. Now, the pins that I have here, I actually decided to just go with rebar. The only thing with rebar is you probably should paint it, because a lot of times with these things you would want to use like a galvanized pin or even a bolt or something. But this is a cheaper way to do it. This is 1/2-inch rebar, and all I did was just cut it. So the first pin here, it's going to go 3 inches in this post, and then 3 inches in the center of this post. And that's going to hold this one here like that. And as you can see here, I have an old ironing board that I kept, and I knew I was going to use this sucker for something. So I kept it, and this is why I keep all this stuff out here. So you can see the wind's kicking up, man. So this is going to be a little bit trickier today, but I really got to get this fence up. So anyways, that's the first pin that's going to go in. And the drill bit here is this sucker. It's a 1/2-inch drill bit. It's like 12 inches long. So you got to purchase one of these if you're going to do it this way with the pin. And the second pin is actually going to go all the way through this post and into this post, and in addition to that, it will have about 1 inch hanging out of the other side. The reason is because once this is in here, it's going to have a tension cable running from the top of this to the bottom of that pole, so to make a diagonal. So I'll show you guys when it's all said and done here, but that's what these are for. So now I got to get to drilling here, and the very first thing I got to do here is make sure that this post is where I want it, and make sure it's facing the right direction, mark it off, and start putting the holes in, because the wind's kicking up and I want to make sure that I get this done. So here we go.
All right, so if you don't have an ironing board, you can just make yourself a couple sawhorses or something, some type of platform that you can keep that post on while you do this. So here what I'm showing you guys is actually, I will measure out the distance on the drill bit here, because I want a 3-inch hole on each one of these posts here. So all I do is I measure 3 inches, because the pin is 6 inches. And I'm going to take a piece of painting tape and I'm going to wrap it around the drill bit here, so I know that I'm not going to go too far into the posts. And also, if you're wondering why I'm doing it this way, as far as putting the posts in one at a time and then putting this in instead of just putting the 2 posts in together, when you're doing this by yourself and you want to keep an exact distance for the perpendicular post, it's going to be a lot more exact doing it this way than to try to eye it and just kind of jam the post in there or mortise it in later. So I found this to be the best method. So here you go, I got it ready to go, and I'm going to drill the hole in. Now this is pretty self-explanatory, and one thing I will say that you'll want to do is you want to get yourself some oil for your drill bit. Now what I do is I took some bar chain oil and I just dip the bit into the oil occasionally, just to keep the bit staying cool and smooth going in, because these bits are not cheap and you don't want to burn them out. All right, so now that I have that post in place, it's time to put the final post in to complete the H. And here I gotta move the camera off of its tripod. It's very windy that day, so I had to make some adjustments here. But anyways, so now you see that this post is connected here with that pin, and I'm gonna do the same thing with the other posts. Now, the only difference with this post, as I was saying before, is I'm going to be using a bracket to attach it. Now the bracket is only temporary. It's there to just keep it in place while I drive that pin through it. You can use a Simpson tie like the one I'm holding here. I think these are less than $1 a piece. Or you can use any other type of bracket. And you don't have to use one, but I highly recommend doing it. It'll make it a lot easier for you. So here I'm going to use a piece of angle iron that I have. It's a scrap piece. But yeah, so basically I'll attach this post to the other post with the bracket, and then I'm going to take those braces off right there, and I'm going to attach them to this one. And I'm going to use my level to make sure everything's level, and then I'll get ready to pour the concrete. Alright, so you can see here what I meant about the bracket. I got it in. It's set up kind of the way I want it. It's close enough. And now what I'm going to do is actually drive this pin through here. Actually, I'm going to do it before I put the concrete in. That way it's just one less thing I got to do later. So, alright, so fast forward a couple days later, and about 8 ibuprofens, and I have my H posts in. So you can see here, they look like an H. And there's the pin sticking out right there, getting ready for that tension cable. So that'll be on the next video. Gonna make this a 2-parter. And you're gonna wanna stay tuned for this one, because this one, I'm also gonna show you guys how I converted a demolition hammer into a T-post driver. And here, I'm holding the bit that I made. So I'm actually proud of this thing. This is actually an old manual T-post driver that I cut off, and then I welded it to my jackhammer bit, and hopefully it'll work, but we'll find out in the next one. So one more thing I want to mention to you guys before you go. What you want to do before you cement your last post in, and this just happened like because I stopped the video before I actually did it, and then I realized, oh, this is important. So what you want to do is you want to look down the line from wherever your next set of H-posts are going to be. And before you cement that last post in, you want to look down and make sure that you can't see the other posts like that. But I'm talking about the one further down. I can't do it with the camera because it's a little too far away. But basically, if you look down there and you can see the T-post, or I'm sorry, the H-post, you can see the back post, then it's not straight. And you want to make sure that you barely, if anything, you don't see it at all. But if you can see that back post peeking out, then you need to make an adjustment before you cement the post in. So that's just a tip for you. I hope you know what I'm talking about, but you can just leave a comment if you have any questions. And like I said, this is going to be a 2-parter, and the next one's going to have a lot of content as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.